Say yes. SAS was born to prove that a small unit could change a huge war. Its origin is in 1941 in the North African desert. David Sterling imagined fast blows far from the main front. The first brilliant lie was the name. It sounded like a giant brigade. In reality, they were a few men, light vehicles, and a lot of initiative. Their strength was not occupying ground, but appearing where no one expected. That DNA of surprise, autonomy, and daring stayed forever. After the war, it was disbanded, but the idea was too useful to die. The SAS was reborn and ended up shaping the model for many modern forces. Its motto, "Who dares wins," sums up a culture of calculated risk. Its training is associated with extreme endurance, navigation, and mental pressure. Selection does not seek only strength, it seeks calm when everything goes wrong. In 1980, the Iranian embassy siege made it a televised myth. Since then, to the public, SAS means secrecy, precision, and cold nerves. Its real fame comes from operating with little information and huge consequences. That is why so many later units copied part of its philosophy. SAS is not famous for making noise, but for arriving before the noise begins. Navy SEALs. Navy SEALs turned water into an entry door for almost any mission. The modern unit was created in 1962 under John F. Kennedy's push. Its roots come from swimmers, scouts, and naval demolition teams of World War II. The name sums up their identity: sea, air, and land. Their fame grew in Vietnam, where they moved through rivers and jungles. Enemies called them the men with green faces. What distinguishes them is constant adaptation to changing environments. Their best-known public training is BUD/S, famous for cold, sleep loss, and exhaustion. The idea is not just breaking bodies, but checking who keeps thinking. SEAL culture sells an image of almost impossible endurance. They are also famous for high-profile missions the public recognizes instantly. On screen, they look like pure action, but the real key is invisible preparation. They work with intelligence, communications, pilots, divers, and medical support around them. That is why a famous operation is never only a famous patrol. Their historical advantage is moving from the sea without asking permission from the terrain. That made them a global symbol of American Special Forces. Navy SEALs is the unit that turned the ocean into stage, hiding place, and road. Delta Force. Delta Force is famous precisely because it almost never confirms its own fame. It was born in 1977, driven by Colonel Charles Beckwith. Beckwith had observed the British SAS and wanted a permanent American version. The era was marked by hijackings, international terrorism, and hostage crises. Delta was designed as a special mission force, flexible and extremely secret. It does not present itself as a public brand, but as a national, last resort tool. Its selection draws from already experienced soldiers, not beginners. The public test most often repeated is navigation under exhaustion. But the important part is decision-making, thinking alone, fast, and without applause. The failure of Eagle Claw showed the United States it needed real coordination. From that period came reforms that changed American special operations. Delta gained a reputation in rescues, captures, and hunts for high-value targets. Mogadishu made it known to millions, though in a bitter way. Its legend does not come from flashy uniforms, but total anonymity. In Delta, public identity disappears behind the mission. That is why it appears in books and films, yet remains hard to see. Delta Force is the modern myth of the unit that works in absolute silence. Spetsnaz. Spetsnaz is not one single unit. It is a word meaning special purpose. For many, the most iconic branch is the one linked to the Soviet GRU. Its modern origins are associated with 1949 and Cold War logic. The idea was to prepare groups able to operate far, fast, and with little support. Deep reconnaissance, sabotage, and psychological pressure are part of its historical image. Its public reputation mixes real facts, propaganda, and a lot of mystery. The Spetsnaz image speaks of cold, hunger, blows, and brutal endurance. It is not a clean Hollywood brand, it is a hard, fragmented family. For decades, the West imagined it behind every secret map. Afghanistan and Chechnya reinforced its reputation for extremely harsh operations. It also carries a much darker reputation than many other famous units. Its cultural power lies in the image of the operator enduring the unbearable. Its myth is based on surprise, infiltration, and aggressiveness, always told at a high level. But speaking of Spetsnaz requires precision. Not every Spetsnaz is the same. There are military, police, and security units with different histories. Even so, the name remains one of the most recognizable in the world. Spetsnaz is famous because it sounds less like a unit and more like a warning. GIGN. GIGN is the French unit that turned saving hostages into a national obsession. It was born after the trauma of Munich 1972 and became operational in 1974. France needed a specialized response for crises impossible to solve with normal police. The gendarmerie created a small, patient, and extremely trained group. Its culture mixes negotiation, marksmanship, psychology, and emotional control. It does not seek to look fierce. It seeks to end the crisis with maximum lives saved. Its historic motto conveys a simple idea: commit for life. Its most famous moment came with Air France Flight 8969 in 1994. The world saw how an air crisis could end without a passenger massacre. That episode made GIGN a global reference for police intervention. Unlike military forces, its natural scenario is trapped civilians. That demands moral precision. Win without destroying what you are trying to protect. That is why its public training emphasizes coordination and self-control so much. GIGN also protects diplomats, sensitive sites, and events under enormous pressure. Its fame does not come from conquering, but from stopping a tragedy from growing. In a noisy world, GIGN represents armed patience. GIGN is famous because its ideal victory ends with people alive. GSG-9. GSG-9 was born from a wound Germany never wanted to repeat. After the Munich 1972 massacre, Germany created a federal counterterrorist unit. The decision was political. It had to be police, not military. That shaped its identity. Extreme force inside very clear rules. Ulrich Wegener was the central figure in that creation. Its fame exploded in 1977 with the Landshut aircraft rescue in Mogadishu. Operation Feuersauber freed the hostages and transformed the unit's prestige. Since then, GSG-9 became a model for other tactical police units. Its public specialty is the point where law, technique, and courage intersect. It does not sell romance. It sells German discipline applied to the worst possible minute. The unit trains for aircraft, buildings, trains, and complex threats. But its real myth is acting when negotiation is no longer enough. GSG-9 also shows that a democracy can prepare without militarizing everything. That is why its birth matters as much as its missions. It was an institutional answer to chaos, not just a collection of tough operators. Its legend is cold, orderly, and deeply marked by the past. GSG-9 is famous because it turned a national failure into permanent readiness. Sayeret Matkal. Sayeret Matkal is the unit where intelligence matters as much as strength. It was founded in 1957 by Avraham Arnon inside the Israel Defense Forces. Its early inspiration looked to the SAS: enter far, observe, and leave with information. Before being famous for rescues, it was a strategic reconnaissance unit. Its essential mission was getting information that could change national decisions. That explains its obsession with navigation, patience, and individual judgment. The ideal candidate does not only run, he understands what he is seeing. Its most legendary moment was Entebbe, in Uganda, in 1976. That rescue turned the unit into a global symbol of planned audacity. It also produced figures who later reached the top of military and politics. That mix of secrecy and leadership increased its aura even more. Sayeret Matkal cannot be understood without Israel's size and pressure. When the margin for error is minimal, information becomes survival. That is why many of its operations remain classified for years. Its public fame is only the visible tip of a culture of silence. What distinguishes it is thinking before moving and moving before being seen. Sayeret Matkal is famous because it turns intelligence into surgical action. SBS. SBS is the maritime sister of the SAS, and maybe that is why it seems even more invisible. Its roots go back to World War II and small raids from the water. Before helicopters and satellites, the kayak could be a strategic tool. Roger Courtney proved that one silent man could embarrass an entire harbor. That anecdote sums up the SBS spirit. Strength through guile. The modern unit belongs to the naval world and recruits heavily from Royal Marines. Its natural terrain is coasts, ships, submarines, rivers, and platforms. If SAS is the myth of the desert, SBS is the myth of the tide. Its operations are often so secret that its fame lives in the gaps. What is known is enough to understand its profile. Enter from where nobody looks. Training combines commando endurance with highly demanding aquatic skills. It is not a spectacle unit, it is an access unit. By sea, a small team can arrive without roads, runways, or permission. It has been associated with British conflicts from the Falklands to Afghanistan, but its true mark is that it almost never needs to be named. In Special Forces culture, SBS is whispered respect. SBS is famous because it turns the darkness of the sea into an advantage. Shayetet 13. Shayetet 13 is the Israeli force that takes secrecy to the sea. It was formed in 1949 by Yohai Ben Nun with roots in the Palayam. Its identity combines naval commando work, reconnaissance, and raids from the water. Many compare it to the Navy SEALs, but its context is different. Israel lives close to the sea, tense borders, and very nearby threats. That made the coast an intelligence space, not just navigation. The unit operates at sea, in the air, and on land, but its myth begins underwater. The public sees little because many details remain classified. That lack of information feeds a reputation for silent precision. It has participated in key Israeli wars and maritime operations. Its public training is associated with cold water, diving, navigation, and endurance. But the hardest part is coordinating silence, oxygen, time, and intelligence. A mistake at sea is not paid only with failure, it is paid with exposure. That is why Shayetet 13 moves like a unit of liquid shadows. Its fame is smaller among the general public, but huge among military experts. It represents the naval version of an Israeli doctrine, based on initiative and speed. Shayetet 13 is famous because it makes the coastline look like a secret door. JW GROM. JW GROM is the Polish unit whose name means thunder. It was officially activated in 1990, after the end of the communist bloc. Its best-known driving figure was Sławomir Pawlicki. Poland needed to protect interests and citizens in a new and dangerous world. The unit inherited the spirit of the secrecy, clandestine World War II paratroopers. GROM looked to Western models but built its own identity. Its reputation rests on precision, discretion, and psychological preparation. In the 1990s, it appeared in international missions that pulled it from anonymity. Haiti, the Balkans, Iraq, and Afghanistan strengthened its name among allies. Some nickname it the surgeons for its exact and measured style. It is not brute force, but cutting the problem exactly where it matters. Its selection combines physical, psychological, and prolonged endurance tests. GROM stands out because a medium-sized country created a world reputation unit. That makes it perfect to close the list. Less media-heavy, but highly respected. Its history reminds us that elite status does not depend only on country size. It depends on selection, culture, learning, and a very clear mission. JW GROM is famous because it sounds like thunder, but works like a scalpel. These units are not the same, and that is exactly why they are famous. The SAS symbolizes the modern origin of small, deep audacity. The SEALs represent amphibious obsession. Enter from sea, air, or land. Delta embodies total secrecy and the last resort mission. Spetsnaz brings the harsh Cold War image and extreme endurance. GIGN and GSG-9 show that hostage rescue demands rules, patience, and nerve. Sayeret Matkal and Shayetet 13 show that intelligence and geography can define a doctrine. SBS reminds us that sometimes the best entry is a dark coastline. GROM proves that a young unit can earn global respect very fast. What they share is not violence, but selection, discipline, secrecy, and adaptation. That is why they still fascinate. They seem small, but change enormous decisions.